Happy New Year, and thank you very much for being with us throughout the year 2022, and welcome to 2023. I am Aisha Mohammed Ahmed, standing in for your regular anchor, Gabriel Ojile. Did you know that Nigeria is the biggest producer of yam in the world, producing 71% of total yam produced, while Ghana produces 10%? Yet, Nigeria is nowhere to be found in global export market of yam, while Ghana contributes 94% in yam export from the African continent. The inability of Nigeria to take its rightful place in the global yam export market is unacceptable, and to reposition Nigeria in the yam export market, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development recently organized a workshop to address factors that militate against export of yam from Nigeria. What are these factors? What will the relevant stakeholders do to address these challenges? These and more will be our focus on this episode of the program. Keep watching.
Ensure that we provide the necessary policy direction that will truly position agriculture as the mainstay of our economy.
The federal government is removing obstacles and offering opportunities for self-employment, wealth creation, and food security in the Nigeria's agricultural sector.
Think farming, think agriculture.
Watch Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria.
Transforming Agriculture starts with news from the diary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. In our lineup, Federal Ministry of Agriculture holds consultative stakeholders meeting on transmission of made-in-Nigeria products to South Africa. Also, the ministry organizes workshop for agricultural correspondents to enhance information dissemination. Stay tuned for details after this break.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development recently held a stakeholder consultative meeting in Abuja to strengthen export of Nigeria agricultural products to Pretoria, South Africa. Speaking during the meeting, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Ernest Umakihe, who was represented by the Director, Federal Department of Agriculture, Abdullahi Garba Abubakar, stated that Nigeria has a huge export potential in agriculture value chain, and South Africa has high number of Nigerians living in the country, which makes the country a big market for export of Nigeria's products to meet the needs of Nigerians there and that of South Africa's citizens. Abubakar added that the ministry would collaborate with exporters in order for the country to tap into the export market.
On our part, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is committed to promoting the Agro Zero Reject initiative along with commodity standardization program to stem the rejection of Nigeria's agricultural products and produce in the international market. I therefore urge our investors and indeed all stakeholders in the production of food and agricultural products in Nigeria to take advantage of this export business in order to drive income growth, accelerate the achievement of economic diversification, generate employment, and transform Nigeria into a leading player in the global food market.
The meeting closed with stakeholders agreeing on good packaging of agro products in line with international standards, while exporters and the ministry also agreed to work in harmony with the relevant agencies in charge of exporting Nigeria's products. While giving a vote of thanks during the meeting, the Director, Agribusiness, A.M. Adebi, urged the stakeholders to work in line with the decisions taken from the meeting.
All that we have deliberated upon will be put to action so that we can achieve the desired aim of this meeting.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development recently organized a workshop for agricultural correspondents with the theme Deepening the Understanding of Activities and Programs of Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Speaking during the workshop, The permanent secretary of the ministry, who was represented by the Director, Department of Rural Development, Udo Daniel, applauded the journalists for excellent reportage of the agricultural sector. He urged them to always ensure in-depth reportage and analysis of the ministry's programs to enhance agricultural production.
You have excellently publicized the activities and programs of the ministry. Indeed, you have been strong partners and good allies of the ministry. The ministry has enjoyed your overwhelming support, and at every critical moment you have risen to the occasion. The ministry remains grateful to you and will continue to partner with you in the discharge of its mandates.
Other heads of directorates in the ministry were on ground during the workshop and interacted with the journalists on the achievements of the ministry through their departments. Speaking during the workshop, the Director of Information, Dr. Joel Onuche, urged journalists to be vanguards to project the policies and programs of the ministry and encourage Nigerians to embrace agriculture.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the press we know possesses enormous power that can either destroy or build, and rather enjoy all to channel this power towards sensitizing our people to take to agriculture so that together we can feed ourselves.
Global export of yam is valued at $13.4 billion US dollars, and Nigeria, being the largest producer of yam, does not have up to 10% share of this export value. What can we do as a country so that we are not only the #1 producers of yam, but also attain the status of #1 exporter of yam in the global markets? This will be our focus in our next segment, Records of the FDA. Keep watching.
In December 2022, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development organized stakeholders' workshop to reposition Nigeria in the yam export market with the theme, Repositioning Yam as an Export Crop, Prospects and Challenges. The workshop attracted the representative of the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, President National Association of Yam Farmers, Processors and Marketers, yam seed companies, yam marketers, and other relevant stakeholders. Speaking in a keynote address during the workshop, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Ernest Afolabi Umahihe, who was represented by the Director of Federal Department of Agriculture, Abdullahi Garba Abubakar, stated that Nigeria is the #1 producer of yam in the world, but is nowhere to be found in the map of exporters of yam in the international market. Umahihe urged the stakeholders to identify factors militating against the export of Nigeria's yam in order to address the challenges.
If Ghana, that produces only 10% of global production, can earn as much, Nigeria can earn 6 times more than Ghana based on our production capacity. The aim of this meeting there is to reawaken our consciousness on the export of yam for national wealth creation, increase income for farmers, and job creation to our citizens.
Some of the challenges militating against the export of Nigeria yam as identified during the workshop include the need to enhance mechanization, production of small size of yam suitable for export, further research to develop and popularize more improved yam seeds, packaging, Export Prohibition Act, and the need to enhance logistics.
We have designed this approach.
For the president of the National Association of Yam Farmers, Processors and Marketers, Professor Simon Itwange, packaging material is one of the major challenges confronting yam exporters in Nigeria, and to surmount the challenge, his association has redesigned the packaging material to make it suitable for export and would want the ministry to empower members to enhance the production of the packaging material.
We have designed this approach, but then it's a lot in terms of producing them and making them available to our exporters.
We wouldn't mind if we are supported at the level of the ministry to produce these catalogs and we'll give it to our exporters at the field.
Another challenge identified by exporters is logistics. For them, Nigeria yam exporters cannot compete favorably in the global market due to the high cost of landing and other export policies in Nigeria compared to other countries.
If you go to Ghana and export your yam or any product, 777 is my favorite item of plane. It's about 100 tons. All the government fees and charges is less than $4,000. It was my work between $3,800 to $4,000. 100 ton, euro 6 hours for my grant. You bring this plane to Nigeria from Lagos to Europe, 6 hours, 100 ton, you spend $35,000. Now tell me, somebody is spending total cost of 4,000 and you are spending 35,000. How do you compete it? Where do you start from? And going deeper than that in my industry, landing on the airplane in Accra, it's about $250, $300 landing fee. Here in Nigeria, $4,000. Navigational charges, about $3,500. Nigeria, $4,800 on the same airplane.
To enhance yam export from Nigeria, efforts need to be put in place by researchers, government, and the farmers to enhance mechanization and production of the particular size of yams that are suitable for export.
If we are going to upscale yam production and produce quality yams that will be able to be exportable, then we need to look at our production. Can we change from the hips to the ridges, in which case we can bring in mechanization and then we'll be able to produce the yam in the size and the shape that is required for export.
For the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, Nigeria has the potential to produce yam in every part of the country, including all parts of northern Nigeria where rainfall is minimal.
We have countries like Burkina Faso, where they produce yam, receives 400 millimeters of rainfall, and they still produce yam and they eat. Here we are putting that line at 1,000 millimeter mark, and we say that you can only produce that yam southwards of that line. We can produce it even further north, especially with seed yam. Seed yam doesn't need the whole 7 to 8 months. In 4-5 months, you can produce seed. So we can still go further north. For export yam, we don't need very large yams, so we can produce it for a shorter period with the rate that is available in that region.
To avoid rejection of Nigeria yam by Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service and other international quarantine bodies, the exporters were advised to strictly adhere to international standards and guidelines.
Let me emphasize there. No country will give you a condition that is not scientifically justified. If it's not scientifically justified, we have the right as a quarantine body to take them up at the World Trade Organization.
For the desk officer yam value chain, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Perpetua Iyere Usiahon, yam exporters are to see agriculture and its value chain as a business, as that will enhance the Nigeria yam export market, even as the government would continue to create an enabling environment for the export market to thrive.
We have always said that agriculture has become a business. It is no longer a development program. And if I'm in business, what do? I put in my money and then I cost what I have put in, and then I now decide how and what to sell my product. The government, what government should do is to create an enabling environment to make sure that the business thrives.
You are watching Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria, and our focus is on efforts to improve Nigeria's status as a yam exporting country. The role of research to turn around the fortunes of yam production for the export market is crucial, and our crew made a follow-up visit to the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture to examine the research breakthroughs the institute has made in yam production. The breakthroughs are quite impactful to increase production and enhance the yam export markets. Stay with us as we showcase these technologies in our next segment, Partnership for Development.
This is the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture outstation in Kubwa area in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Its headquarters is in Ibadan. It is a non-profit research institute that has made great impact in research for development of agricultural crops such as yam, cassava, maize, soybeans, cowpea, plantain and banana, amongst others.
Research is done on all of these crops, and the intention is actually to fight hunger in sub-Saharan Africa, to improve the livelihoods of people, and also to improve the use of natural resources.
The old method of yam farmers of getting yam seed is by selection of small tubers of yam after harvest. This method does not encourage mass production of yam, and the quality of the so-called seed yam in the old method is not good enough to enhance high yield. The International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, has developed different varieties of yam seed that are high-yielding, free of disease, and are drought-tolerant.
If you go to Lambata market, the tubers that they sell as seed usually is from say from 800 grams to about 1.5 kg. And these are tubers that are also good as food and especially good for the export. So they will take that tuber, they will cut it into 2 or 3. When you plant it at the end of the season, their yields range usually between 8 and 10 tons per hectare. But with the new system that we have now, we are telling farmers that even if you plant a 50-gram size of tuber, you will still get the food size of tuber that we call ware yam. That is tubers of about 1.5–2 kg. You will still get that size of tuber, and the yields are much higher. We are getting yields of between 25 and 30 tons per hectare.
This is the screen house of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, where research is done to improve the varieties of yam and for rapid multiplication. But how is this yam seed multiplication done?
By the box here, we had plants that we planted from tubers, very little tubers that are small as the grain of beans or corn. So those ones, they produced plants, and from the plants we cut vines. A vine like this one has 3 leaves, so from this we can get 3 plants. So we started with a very small tuber, we got the vine, and then we cut it like this. So this is what we plant. This is what we plant. So all of these plants that you see inside here have been planted with something like this. Just a tiny bit of stem and 1 leaf. They will grow, they will give us tubers. And those tubers we are going to use as seed to plant to get bigger tubers.
This single vine can produce as many as over 100 yam seeds, making yam seed multiplication easier and faster.
This is what we plant. You can see this is a leaf, and this tiny bit is the stem that is buried in the soil. And this is what we have now after, is it 6 weeks? Yes. After about 6 weeks, you can see it is growing and already has a tiny tuber attached to it. So if it stays much longer, the tuber will get bigger. But really what we planted even to start cutting was small like this one. So from this small tuber like this, from one plant we can get up to 100, 120 cuttings like this that we plant, and then we get more seed.
The modern yam seeds are very tiny but viable, and it is imperative for farmers to understand that, despite its small size compared to what they are used to, the new seeds are better and should not be rejected by farmers.
Before we started getting those cuttings, and then when we get the cuttings, if we plant them inside the screen house, it will give us sizes like this. It will give us these sizes. In addition to giving us this size, that plant that we are cutting from, that is what is also giving us this. So you will get all those cuttings, maybe 100 or 200, and then at the end you will still get this one to harvest. Now, when we plant these ones, it is giving us this size of tuber, and even bigger. You see this one? It is from this size. This, maybe take this one. Yeah. So you can plant this and you will get this. But we for our purpose, because we are looking for seed, we don't leave it in the soil for long.
It is also important for farmers to know that the new seed system is better planted when the rainfall has started and be covered with mulches to protect the seed.
I've cut the leaf at an angle, you plant it at an angle also, you firm it. Now, assuming the soil was wet, just as simple as this operation, you are going to have this leaf, this vine, it has a stem and the leaf. You're going to have it grow in the next 8 days. It starts bringing out root. The nodal complex, it starts to differentiate and give root. By the 14th day, you see a lot of root. And within a month, you start seeing a level of tuber coming up.
The institute is also a training ground for young graduates who come in as core members or as employees.
The practical aspects, yes, which I've done here is planting with vines. And I've also discovered that with these vines, you can actually get thousands of seeds. Meanwhile, in those days, like what I was taught in school was about seeds, getting enough seeds. Like sometimes you cut it as mini sets to plant in the field, which also requires a lot. It requires a lot of money. But with this, planting with these vines, you can also get more than what you get from that seed.
The International Institute of Tropical Agriculture has also trained some seed companies for rapid multiplication and adoption of this technology by yam farmers.
We have trained our partners in Nigeria to be able to use these improved technologies. For example, the National Root Crop Research Institute at Umudike, they have the national mandate to work on yam. So whatever technologies IIT has developed has been handed over also to the National Research Institute.
With concerted efforts across the yam value chain, Nigeria will not only be the #1 producer of yam in the world, but become the #1 in export of yams and yams products. This is the motto we can take on this episode of the program. Join us again, same time, same station, next week for another interesting episode. Good night and Happy New Year once again.